I'm Brittney Saunders, and welcome to Big Business, the place where business is far from boring. And today I'm recording on Awabakal land. Now, I somehow managed to build an empire from the garage underneath my house, and I'm here to share it all with you, from the wins, the huge mistakes, the challenging times, and the funny moments in between. So whether you're in business already, perhaps you're not in the game at all, maybe you're just looking for some inspiration, or you just simply want to hear the tea, this is the podcast for you. Coming up on today's episode, I'm going to talk about what it's like to be a female business owner, CEO, entrepreneur in a man's world. I'm going to be talking about some of the challenges that I myself have faced. I'm going to talk about some specific moments that have stood out to me when I've thought, holy fuck, if I was a man, then I'd be the man. Which, by the way, I love that Taylor Swift song. I played it for AJ last night when I told him that I was doing this episode, and I don't think he's ever really heard that song, which, by the way, you need to listen to that song if you haven't heard it, The Man by Taylor Swift. And so I played it for AJ. I said, listen to the words. And he was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I've never really heard this song or actually listened to the words. But I'm just going to be talking about what it's like to be a female founder and leader in a world where men rule everything. So without further ado, let's just get straight down to business. So let's spill the tea. What is it like to be a woman, founder, CEO, entrepreneur, business owner, even manager or leader in a world where men are just favoured? I can obviously speak about this because I'm a female CEO and founder, and I've definitely had some instances myself where it stopped me in my tracks. But at the same time, I think I have never allowed a man to completely stop me. If anything, I think I just have this false sense of confidence, or I've had it since the very beginning, where I've never let a man kind of doubt me. But there have been a few instances over the years, and I'm sure there's a lot that happened to me that I don't even realize because I'm so confident within myself. But I know for a lot of women, they don't have this like extreme weird confidence that I somehow have built over the years, and that, you know, doing something ballsy or starting a business or applying for a loan or any of those things, it can be quite daunting, especially when you're dealing with men. Now, in my business, I weirdly deal with a lot of men, actually, even though it doesn't seem that way. Fate is a female-dominated business, and I absolutely love that. We've got 2 guys in the company, and we'd love more, but the girlies just love Fate. And when we put up a job ad, all the girlies come pouring through. But we've got AJ, obviously, my partner, and then we've got Josh in the warehouse. Warehouse Josh. And we've had a few other guys over the years too, mainly in the warehouse. But Fate is a female-dominated company, and I love that. It's not to say it hasn't come with its challenges over the years, but I absolutely love and am so proud to say that we employ so many women. Now, one of the, I guess, first instances that really stood out to me when I was dealing with a man, and by the way, like the way that I deal with men in my business is obviously not like internally. It's externally. It's all of our solicitors. It's our accountants. It's our real estate agents, because we've got, 7 or 8 bloody commercial leases. And most of the people that we deal with are men. We've got our contractors. We've got our bin guys. We've got our posties. Just all these outside people that we deal with most of the time are men. And so I've got a bit of a story to tell you. Now, yeah, I'm going to say what one it was. And I mean no harm when I say this at all. And I know it was lighthearted, but it just made me think in the moment, if I was a guy, would this conversation be playing out the way that it is? So Fate, this was maybe 3-ish years ago now, or 2.5 years ago. We had our one store. We just had our one Newcastle store. And I made the crazy decision, fuck it, I'm going to open a store in Sydney. And so I ventured down, and again, I don't want to get in any sort of trouble for saying this. Whoever is listening from Westfield, Miranda, I mean no harm by saying this. I love you guys. I love the store there. But there was this moment, okay? So I'm and the other thing with me as well is like I'll go and do everything by myself. Like I'm that confident in myself and my business and my brand that I reached out to all of these Westfields, which actually makes me think, just the thought that I'm having right now. I wonder, because when you want to have a store in a Westfield or wherever, like you just find their people and you email them. Like you can find their emails on their website, like for retailers, and you kind of pitch yourself to them. And I emailed a lot and I didn't hear back from a few. And that just made me think, I wonder if if there's shopping centers I've never heard back from, is that because I'm a woman? You know, or would I be taken more seriously if I was a guy? Because some you just don't hear back from at all, and others you do. But anyway, Westfield Miranda, which is where our second Fate store is, like the second one we ever opened, is in Sydney. And they were the first ones that got back to me when I reached out to a bunch in Sydney. So I locked in a meeting with them, and it was a girl and a guy. And I just so confidently drove down to Sydney, by myself. I'm this young girl. And the thing with me is, yes, I'm professional, but when it comes to my business and being in meetings and doing all the things, even though it's like corporate, I quite literally just rock up as myself. I don't ever try to pretend to be anyone else in my role, even though I'm a CEO. I don't walk in with a blazer and act all mighty and smart. I just show up and go, how are you? I'm Brittney from Newcastle. What you see on social media and the way that I portray myself on my podcast is exactly how I am when I'm meeting professionals. Sure, I might be a little bit more professional, but I'll still be funny. And so I remember rocking up to Westfield Miranda. Again, no offense to Westfield Miranda. I love you guys. And I met with this guy and girl. And Westfields and all shopping centres, they essentially have their own agents, right? Like the leasing agents. They're like an agent for the centre and they look after all the tenants. And so I met these people. They were really nice, shook their hands. And I always love shaking a guy's hand with a bit of extra strength just to be like, yeah, this is me and this is who I am. And then what you'll do when you go walking through a centre is they will walk you through and kind of show you around. And I'd never been there before, so they've shown me all the different areas. And then we get to the store that I was looking at, which is now our store and has been for it's almost 3 years this year. Fucking hell, I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to talk about how fast the time is going. Anyway, I remember the guy that I was with, and he's in a suit. I'm there in my fucking jeans. And he started obviously questioning me about fate and about my business. And part of me gets it, I'm this young blonde girl who's super energetic and I'm there by myself. And I don't look like a professional business owner, but what the fuck does a professional business owner look like? And so we're walking through the centre. The lady that was with him, she had done her research. She knew exactly who I was. She knew exactly who Fate was. She had seen our social media. Oh my God, there's another. Okay, hold that thought. There's also another story that I'm going to tell after this one, which just jogged in my memory. And so he's questioning me about the business, about Fate, and I'm just talking about who we are, what we do, our size range, this, that, and the other. And I just got the sense from this guy, even though he was being really lovely, I felt like he was kind of laughing at me. And I felt like he was kind of doubting me. And I only had one other store, obviously, our Newcastle store at this stage, and it was performing exceptionally well. I'm super confident in opening another store based off the store that we've had for however many years by that point. And we got to the store and we had a look through. I loved it. It was in shambles. If you remember seeing my content on Instagram, we were going to have to give the whole thing a makeover. And then we started talking about figures, and he was saying, I'd expect if you were to move into this space, you would make about this much in revenue for a year. And so we started throwing around figures and sales figures. And I remember going, really? And I think the number that he said was less than what our Newcastle store was making at the time in a year. He said, in a year, you'd probably do this turnover. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, no, I think we would do more, because I was confident in Fate and I know what our Newcastle store was making at the time. I was like, no, I think it would be actually more around this. And we kind of went back and forth, and it was him going, no, I don't think so. And me going, yeah. And like, I was being really funny with it. I'm like, is that a challenge? And so I was being funny with him. And it was banter. Like it was not intended to be malicious or anything on his part. But we had this back and forth over what he thought I could generate in that store versus what I thought I could generate in that store. And I remember saying to him, is that a challenge? And he's like, yep, I'll put you up to the challenge. And we were laughing and it was funny and whatever. And this is why I don't want to get in fucking trouble with Westfield Miranda or anything. But I remember leaving after meeting them both, shaking their hands, and I said, yep, let's keep the combo going. I'm keen on this store. I want it. And then I remember calling AJ on the way home, and it was one of the first things that I said to AJ was, I felt like the guy was like underestimating me. I felt like he wasn't confident in me the way that I am. And that was one of the first moments where I thought, I wonder if I would have had that conversation with that guy if I was a man. Would that conversation have gone that way, and would have he been like, oh, no, I don't think you'll make that much if I was a guy? And that is just a little moment in my career and business journey that has stuck with me.
Yeah, it's really interesting that, hello, sorry, it is Producer X. I always forget to say who's jumping in for any new listeners. It's really interesting that you've brought that up, because would he be questioning your knowledge and your understanding of your business and what you think it could generate if you were a man? Because I don't think he would have, and I don't think many other men would question that. I think that they would accept that male knew and understood his business well enough to give you an honest take on what they think they could make.
Absolutely. And I can't remember what the figure was, but he would have been also talking, based on the stats of the previous stores that had been in there. And like maybe those stores hadn't been as successful in that space. But I remember him just saying like, you might generate like 650 grand a year or whatever it was. And I was like, no, I reckon I'll do over $1 million in this space. And him, instead of just him going, oh, really? Like shit, like you must have a really good product or whatever, or a great community.
Or even asking you, oh, why do you think that you're going to reach that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just this, and it wasn't malicious. I just think, like, if I was a guy, maybe that conversation wouldn't have gone that way. And what I found so much satisfaction in, and what I find and will continue to find so much satisfaction in, is then we opened, and we just go boom. And because you have to report your sales figures to Westfield, I remember a massive change of tone in the way he spoke to me after that. And for months after that, it went from like having this funny, weird interaction the first time I met him, and then we ended up getting along really well. And he would call me and say, how's everything going? Oh my God, I heard how good you did on Saturday. And then he wanted me to go into another Westfield, because a lot of these agents look after a lot of Westfields. And then it was, Britt, I've got this other shop for you. Come and look at this other centre in Sydney. And I'm like, oh, well. Here we were. You were thinking I was going to make X amount. I've knocked it out of the fucking park, and now you want my money in another centre. So that's just a little fun story that I'll never forget. Another one. When I was venturing down to Melbourne, to look at opening our store there, I started with all the shopping centres. Everyone knows now I ended up going with a boutique in Hawthorn. Go visit the girlies down there if you're ever around. But again, I have a lot of experience with going and meeting these centre managers and leasing agents and whatever. And I was super excited about this one because it's like the biggest shopping centre down there. I don't really want to say which one because I don't want to get in trouble and because I'm not a tenant there, but like the big shopping centre down there that everyone raves about. I spoke with the guy there, and I locked in for AJ and myself to fly down to go and see one of the stores there and see the centre. And I had been emailing back and forth with this guy, and we locked it in. He knew that I was flying down. He knew that I'd booked flights, blah, 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 blah. When we got to the centre, I was just immediately disappointed because I could tell that he hadn't even looked up who we were. And the thing that solidified it for me that he'd done no research was he asked if we are using social media for our business. And I was like, yeah, we're using social media for our business. We're like one of the biggest brands in the country on social media. And so I never pursued that center, and I never emailed that guy after that meeting because he ruined it for me. And I just wonder, like, was that just him, or did he not bother looking into anything that I do or fate because I'm a woman? Like, I'll never really know. But that was just another little instance for me. Now let's get on to some of the other common challenges that female leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs may face. Obviously, what I've touched on for this whole episode so far is just simply not being taken seriously. I think that's something that applies in life in general. You know, women are never taken as seriously as men. Sorry to all the men listening, but surely if you're listening to this podcast in general, you're a girl's guy, you know? But it's just not being taken seriously. And I'm sure that I have not been taken seriously a billion times by men that I speak with. But maybe I just don't notice it because I'm just so confident in myself that I'm probably shaking hands with these guys and like, who the fuck is this girl? But I've just got this like fearless confidence about myself that I don't even notice it anymore. But there obviously are those moments that stand out, and I'll always remember those. Now, another weird one, which is personal to me, and I think also probably to a lot of other female, more so leaders, like this could even apply to like management positions, you know, people that are bosses in workplaces, is I've dealt with some experiences over the years with staff, like going back to my staff and us being a female-dominated workplace. I've dealt with a lot of experiences, and at the end of it all, I have said out loud and said to my colleagues or said to AJ, I've said to myself, I wonder if that person would have treated me that way if I was a 50-year-old man. So obviously females aren't taken seriously in life in general anywhere near as much as men are. And without like going too in detail, I've dealt with some staff conflicts over the years, especially like in my early development years and like when we opened up our first couple of stores. And I've had some people treat me in ways that's just like completely thrown me off guard. Whether it's people saying personal attacks against me, I've had staff members that have been exiting the company, especially in my earlier days when I didn't know how to handle those kinds of situations. And just some of the shit that I've had like past staff members say to me where I've thought after it all and like once it's all finished and we're done with the fucking drama, not that it's drama, well, with the situation, where I've turned to AJ and I've said, I don't think that previous employee would have spoken to me in that way or treated me that way if I wasn't a 30-year-old girl, because I just couldn't ever imagine in a million years some of the stuff that people have said to me. I couldn't imagine them acting that way towards a 50-year-old guy. Like it just wouldn't happen. So whilst it's amazing to have this female-dominated company and all of these female staff members, I've also feel like I've experienced firsthand the negatives of being a female in a position of authority and power where my own staff have not taken me seriously enough or have felt like they could say shit to me that they wouldn't dare to say to a man or an older man. And yeah, that's just like another thing that I thought was worth pointing out.
Do you find that your assertiveness and your role as a boss is perceived differently than someone like AJ who also has a senior role within your company?
Do you think like in terms of my staff?
A lot of the time men who are assertive and who are confident, it's viewed differently to when a woman does it. And a lot of people kind of get their back up about that, or they could find it bitchy, or they could find it cold.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is just like social bias. I don't know if that's the right word, but when a female is assertive, let's say, for example, someone has done something and they need to be spoken to, you know, hey, I'm going to pull you up on this because XYZ. It can come or not it can come across, but people might see that as, oh, she's being a bitch, or she's being rude, or she's attacking me, or she's being nasty. Like, I feel like that can often be people's first thing that they want to think and say, instead of, oh, this is my boss and she's giving me some constructive feedback about something that I maybe didn't do the best and I need to improve or learn better for next time. Whereas, yeah, if AJ had delivered that message to them, I don't think, anyone would go, AJ's a bitch and AJ is personally attacking me. But because that message is being delivered from a female, it can be so different. It can be personal when at the end of the day, as a leader or a manager, when you're delivering a message to someone, it's never personal. It's just business and it's just you doing your job. But because you're a female, oh, she's a bitch because she did this, when that's literally not the case at all.
Even for myself, Britt, like I'm a man, and even now, through situations that I'm in throughout life, I am clocking myself and noticing that I need to really unravel a lot of these societal expectations that we have put on men and women and their different roles, and how I perceive that energy that I'm given. So say, for example, if I hypothetically have a female boss, society has trained us to have this view that men are the leaders and men are the ones who are the bosses, and they're the ones who are gonna, give us our directives. And we're in an age now where, and it's really amazing that we have so many incredible female leaders stepping forward and really taking up space. But we're also in a position where that bias is still there, and I see it in myself, and I try and work on that myself. But it's just such an interesting topic to think about.
It's just ingrained in society and it's been that way forever. It's a man's world at the end of the day. And I think that's really big and great of you that you can actually clock that within yourself. There's been so many times over the years where we are dealing with HR related things in our workplace, and it's always very highly emotionally strung, and I go home to AJ and I'm like, fuck, I'm dealing with this at work today and it's so personal and it's so emotional, when at the end of the day, I'm just trying to do my job. And I've had so many moments, especially more recently, where I've thought, I wonder if, and again, I don't want to be surrendering, but I've thought to myself, this would be so much easier if AJ was the CEO and I wouldn't have to deal with this kind of stuff, because and I've just thought this for my own sake. I mentally can't deal with this kind of stuff and focus on growing the company. And, 1 minute I'm in a HR meeting and something's fucking going to shit, and then next minute I've got to go out and make a funny warehouse video. I'm flinging myself around. But I've literally thought, at any point, should AJ be the CEO so that I don't have to deal with the emotional side of this? And then it makes me think, I reckon if AJ was doing my job and he was sitting in on these HR meetings and delivering these messages to people, if they're not the nicest messages, maybe it would be a lot fucking easier. But why does it have to be that way,
Do you ever feel like you're watching how you're saying things because you're a woman?
Yeah, I'm so mindful with the way that I say everything, always, especially when I'm dealing with a delicate situation. And the fucked thing as well, speaking to this whole topic of men and women, some of the stuff that we've dealt with over the years, and I'm always honest about this on my podcast. Yeah, Fate is an amazing workplace, but we still deal with staffing issues. You can't avoid that no matter what business or brand you are or how amazing everything is. It's just funny as well when, let's say, we're dealing with a scenario and we're having to put someone on a performance plan, which is not fun, by the way, or you're having to see someone exit the company. And I go home and I trauma dump onto AJ about my day. And he always goes, fucking hell, this is so different because AJ is a tradie by trade and he used to work up in the mines, and he says to me, if something like this had happened, or if someone said that to our boss at the mine site, the boss would go, get the fuck off my site and see you later. And that would be it. But then females have to deal with things in such different ways. And I'm like, why? Like, it's all doesn't make sense. And AJ's like, God, if this was happening at my workplace back in the day, would have told to get fuck off and you'd never see him again. Whereas like females have to be so, we don't have to be, but we are so much more delicate with the way that we deal with everything. But men can literally tell someone to get fucked and fuck off the job site and that's it. Like, why do they do that? I don't know. It's an extremely interesting topic, Xander, but I thought we've been talking for ages, so I want to just go over quickly a few other challenges, more so like maybe not ones that I've experienced myself, but just challenges that females will or may experience in the workplace or throughout their entrepreneurial career. Now, one thing that I found really interesting was the fact that women are statistically less likely to receive venture capital or large business loans. Now, I don't have any investors. I've never taken out a loan, so I can't speak from my own experience on this, but I just found that so crazy. And I can't remember where I saw it, but I think it's like a 2% of all like capital that's given out goes to females. Like the rest is dominated by males. And there's a bias that investors, which are mainly men, will just automatically take more interest in a company that is owned by a male when it comes to giving them money to grow their business. Whereas females might have to work a lot harder to prove to the men that they deserve an investment in their company. And again, that is just why? Like, why is that a thing? That is just the craziest thing to me.
It's even more crazy that it wasn't that long ago that like women couldn't even get their own credit cards or loans without the permission of their husband. So,
can you imagine?
So I think a lot of that bias is still ingrained in a lot of older men because they lived through a time where that was the norm, and they're still in a lot of control of these situations.
I think another thing that a lot of female founders will experience, and I think I've experienced here and there on social media, but again, I've got like a really great community online, but it's being judged on social media for being a woman in power and putting yourself out there on social media. And I know I've seen articles popping up on Facebook or whatever, and it's like, female founder makes $10 million. And then you go to the comments and it's all men being like, oh, she just is a slut. Like, sorry to say that word on my podcast. You can beep that out if you want, Xander. But like, you see that yourself on social media, or, oh, she's just fame hungry, or she's just popular, she's just successful because of her looks. Like, you know, being more critically judged on social media for maybe bragging about your successes. I know I even still feel weird bragging about my successes because I'm worried that people are going to say, you're bragging. But if I was a man and I said, hey, look at me, I made $1 million in this sale, they'd go, fucking good on you, mate, you're the man. But if it's a female, they're like, don't brag about money. You shouldn't talk about money in that way. Why? Men can. There's so many other things, obviously not being taken as seriously in work, not taken as seriously, but people who are obviously mums, or when they go off work to become a mum and then they struggle to perhaps get back into the workforce, or they struggle to have career progression. Again, I think this is just like a standard bias that's out there in society, and, you know, mothers get so shamed on or seen as less than, or that they can't run a business or have a career because they've got kids. There's so much of that, which again, like, I can't speak from my own experience because I'm not a mother, but I know for a fact that that is an area that women struggle with when it comes to careers and business ownership and entrepreneurship. I mean, there's so many things that women struggle with. And I think the biggest one out of all of them is that people, like the whole theme of this episode, which has just been people not taking them seriously. And it's something that I've definitely experienced myself, probably more than I have been aware of. But at the end of the day, I just move forward with full confidence with every single thing that I do. And there are those moments that I've experienced where I've gone, holy shit, would you be saying this to me if I was a guy? But I don't let them get to me or get me down. If anything, it gives me more fuel to keep going. And when someone is doubting my business or saying, what is it that you're selling? You're selling clothes. Oh, how's that going for you? Like, I've even had people say to me, like, oh, good luck with that, like in that kind of tone. And I'm like, what do you mean good luck with that? But I think there definitely needs to be a change in society, and we are seeing a bit of a change, like more females in power, more females in politics, obviously more females in business ownership and in leadership positions in general. But I think society needs to let go of all of these societal thoughts that have been ingrained into all of us, because women rule and men would be nothing without us. I'm just going to come right out and say it. Who run the world? Girls. Beyonce said that once and she was so right. Women are the best and men would be nothing without us. Yeah, they run the world, but they do everything for us at the end of the day, I think. I'm going to tell myself that anyway. But yeah, this has been a fantastic episode, and hey, maybe this will leave you thinking in a different way. Maybe the next time your female manager gives you some feedback, instead of automatically thinking, oh, she's such a bitch, stop yourself in your thoughts and think, is this person actually being a bitch or personally attacking me, or is she just doing her job and you're just thinking that way because she's a female? It is food for thought. Anyway, as always, I'm going to end today's episode with a tip of the week. And this is more of a motivational quote. I saw this on social media and I loved it and I wrote it down and I thought I'm going to share this as my tip of the week, and it can just be something that all of us can remember and be mindful of. And the quote is, maybe you don't realize how far you've come because you keep raising the bar. Oh, I freaking love that. And this is great for myself as well. I'm always like chasing the next thing or feeling like I'm not achieving enough. But that's because I keep raising the bar for myself. The bar was once very low. Now it's extremely high. But if I go back and look at that very first bar, it was so low compared to where I am now. So the next time you feel like you're not getting anywhere or you're not achieving anything, really look back at where you started. And also remember, the reason why you're feeling like you're not achieving enough or you can't reach it, just because you keep lifting that bar higher and higher. So I think that's a good thing. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Please feel free to rate my podcast 5 stars if you haven't already. And if you have a question for me, if you want me to talk about something on the pod, if you have a follow-up question to any of my episodes, please send us a DM on my Big Business Podcast Instagram account. That is where we keep up to date with everyone's DMs and we see them all. Xander's in there too in the DMs. He took over my stories the other day. Xander, I was hoping that you would actually do like a video of yourself on there.
I was going to, but then I didn't want to steal your thunder.
You have my permission. You have my permission as a female to a male. You have my permission to get on my stories every now and then if you want.
And I received that and I thank you.
Anyway, that's all for this week's episode. I'll be back later this week with the main. And in the meantime, make sure to chase after your dreams as if they owe you money.